Representative Robbins has House File 3660. And welcome to the committee, and thank you being able to be with us today.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for having me. I really greatly appreciate you hearing this bill, and to members of the committee.
And we're going to move it before us right now.
Thank you.
All right. Representative Mueller, would you be ready to move House File 3660 before the committee to lay over for further consideration?
Yes, I would move 3660 in front of the committee now.
Thank you, Representative Mueller. All right. Representative Robbins, please present your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, this is a very simple bill that I think will have tremendous impact on students in our state who struggle with eating disorders or may not yet struggle, but may be pushed in that direction as they engage in athletics in their youth. So basically, all the bill does is it asks the League of the Minnesota State High School League to provide training to their coaches and assistant coaches, as they already do for licensure, to address eating disorders. And this issue came to my attention. First of all, I'm the mom of 3 daughters, so all of them were involved in youth sports, and they all had different experiences of, coaches saying, oh, you have to eat this or not this or da-da-da-da-da. But that was a limited experience. And when I was doing research on my social media bill, I was stunned at how social media impacts young women in particular, but all youth with eating disorders and driving them further in that rabbit hole. And in that experience, I met Ms. Razdick, who testified in behalf of my bill. And so she's here as an expert on eating disorders, and we've collaborated on this. She supports my work on social media to stem eating disorders, and I'm partnering with her to help our high school league coaches incorporate that in their training.
All right, thank you. And I think we'll hear from our first testifier. Thank you for Lisa Ratzka for joining us today. And if
Thank
could
you.
Identify yourself and proceed.
Chair Pryor, thank you. Members of the committee, thank you for your service and for being here. I want to thank Representative Robbins very much for her support of the work that many of us in the community are trying to do for kids' health related to food, body image, and eating disorder prevention. As Representative Robbins said, my name is Lisa Radzak. I'm the executive director of With All, where we work for kids, adolescents, and teenagers so all young people can feel positive in their bodies and with food. We do this because that is essential to health and to things like preventing eating disorders. In addition to what's in your packet, and I do want to say, I know you all get a lot of paper this time of year. There's a cover sheet that has some really key facts that I'm not going to read to you because they're there. So if you would be comfortable looking at that, I would really appreciate it. Also, some letters from folks who care a lot about this issue, including, for those of you that are aware of Jesse Diggins, a gold medalist and incredible athlete, Chad Greenway, a former Minnesota Viking, and then some experts at the University of Minnesota that I have to say, working in eating disorders, all of us, I can't help but say this, in Minnesota should be so proud of some of the experts at the U of M are known around the world for what they've done with eating disorders, and there's some letters from those folks in the packet. I want to add to that, eating disorders are really expensive. They cost the Minnesota economy an estimated $1.1 billion every year, and that's we're just talking about Minnesota. You see some additional information in the packet about that. 10% of Minnesotans will have an eating disorder or have one now, and 95% of the time it starts between the ages of 12 and 25. At least as often, kids experience an eating disorder, our young people, at least as often as they experience a concussion. And a kid with an eating disorder is 12 times more likely to die than a peer that doesn't have an eating disorder. In addition to that, on top of everything I just said, 30% of our girls and 17% of our boys have disordered eating, also known as subclinical eating disorder, which includes things like vaping to lose weight or taking supplements in order to bulk up, these sorts of things. So almost a third of our girls and about a fifth of our boys are in that situation, which is often what comes next is the clinical eating disorder. This is all getting worse, as you may be aware from headlines. This isn't getting better. It continues to get worse and worse. Here's the good news. Eating disorders aren't inevitable. It's kind of mind-boggling, actually. We know how to prevent them, and it doesn't involve things like research for a vaccine or other things. We know now how to prevent them, but we have to be aware of the risk factors and what we all can do to prevent them. And it's not complicated stuff. My organization takes what researchers have known for decades and practitioners that help treat eating disorders, and we try to take it to the masses, try to take it to the average person, boots on the ground, so we can get it to our kids before they have eating disorders. And that's what this bill does. This is about working with an organization like the League of Minnesota State High School League, which is what this bill particularly does, to reach the 240,000 kids that the league's coaches serves, to get them that prevention resource so those coaches can confidently know how to create the environments and the space. Again, not rocket science, not complicated stuff, some basic information to create the space where our kids can grow without that risk of eating disorders continuing to be growing. Really quick, important last point. Why a statute? Why didn't we just go to the league and say, hey, could you guys do this? Certainly we could have, but the point of the organization that I work with bringing forward the idea of a statute or a bill is to say, you know, perhaps the leaders at the league right now might win the lottery tomorrow, or maybe they retire tomorrow, right? This is about the state saying, let's protect our kids in writing for the long term from illnesses that are so costly and so deadly. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. And we do have someone to represent the league. Mr. Roger Arneson, if you can come forward. And we'd love to hear from you. If you can identify yourself.
Madam Chair and members,
Proceed.
my name is Roger Arneson. I represent the Minnesota State High School League, and I want to hear more about hearing that lottery. This is a really good opportunity to come in and talk to you a little bit about the league and about the bill. Had a very nice meeting with Representative Robbins to talk about this. We think this bill is an excellent idea. The committee may not be aware of the fact, but the league is actually responsible for the ongoing education of coaches. We have a 3-year ongoing coaching requirement. We are always looking for things to add into that particular list. I was just pulling it up here, that we want an education-based philosophy, health and safety courses, which this would fall into that, and then effective management of the athletic programs. The high school league is really focused on that we have education-based activities. We think that's really important. One of the things the committee should be aware of, though, is we have a tremendous amount of turnover in coaches. And we are slowly moving away from having teachers as coaches. One of your colleagues, Representative Hewitt, who you know is an official, he says he can always tell when coaches are teachers or not teachers. So we think this is a good piece of legislation. One of the things we want you to be careful about, and Madam Chair, you've had some discussions about this on other topics with us. We don't want to just say, let's do eating disorders. We have a whole host of things. The league does have a 22-member board. We look forward to having anybody come in and talk about that. And we have invited the prior testifier to come in and visit with the board as well. So we're going to do this, whether it ends up in your bill or not. And we appreciate Representative Robbins for bringing this forward and talking to us about it. It's a really good opportunity. I might also say that we're in the middle of all of our tournaments right now. So we've got hockey down the block this week, and wrestling just finished. We're going to do some more girls basketball next week. A lot of good things happening. So thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to come and talk about this.
And we appreciate your testimony, especially the words we heard, which is we're going to do this, whether it ends up in the final bill or not. So we appreciate hearing that. Thank you. Representative Keeler.
Oh, is that it? You don't have
No,
any more?
that's it. Oh, yeah. Or and then I'm sorry, I saw actually Representative Lee. Your comment first.
Thank you, Chair. I actually had a question, and I think Mr. Aronson brought this up a little bit earlier, but I do want to thank Rep. Robbins for bringing this bill before us because it is actually a really important issue. So Mr. Aronson talked about the turnover of judges, and I wanted to ask a question either to the author or the staff if there is actually a definition for coaches in statute, just because there is a lot of turnover. So,
And Mr. Arneson, if you would address that, please.
I'm sorry.
And can you repeat that, Representative Lee?
yeah, is there a definition for coaches in statute?
Madam Chair, and the answer to that is yes. And we have a head coach requirement. It's a rather loose requirement where you either have the degree or 60 credits towards coaching, and we assist people in moving forward on those. I don't have the site right in front of me, but I can provide that too. We do, not the assistant coaches, but for the head coach.
Great, thank you.
Great, thank you. Yes, and I mean, I guess I just wanted to say this is a really important thing to talk about. Eating disorders have increased significantly because of social media, and so appreciate the bipartisan work working to address the way social media has exacerbated this problem in our young people. I also just wonder, if this isn't included, we can talk about our health standards, which are also up for probably discussion soon, and the curriculums, and because I know in some districts students are required to take health courses, which includes learning about eating disorders and a whole host of other things. And so just wanted to offer that for the record.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Representative Lee. And Representative Keeler, did you have a question or comment on this one?
Sorry, yes.
Yes,
Thank
Representative
you.
Keeler.
I thought you had other testifiers.
No, I
Sorry, I
don't.
was just getting in line, and then it was my turn. Thank you for this bill. Thank you, Chair Pryor. I guess I have questions about the league, too, so if you want to come on back down, before you sit down. I appreciate it as a college athlete myself and as a mom of athletes, and also understanding that this is not just a female or women's issue. We do really see it a lot in our boys. But I have two questions for you. So one is kind of to follow up with the coaches. Would this be designed only for head coaches, or would this be like all the way down to your freshmen, all the way down to like your third grade basketball programs? Like how far and what coaches would this cover?
Mr.
Madam
Arneson.
Chair, Representative Keeler, I think, first of all, we're the high school league, so we have
High
the 12, 11, 10. We're looking at expanding into 9. We do have some 8th and 7th grade classes, but all of the coaches that are involved in those activities have to take the ongoing credits. It's a 3-year cycle. We do a lot of that online. We also do an annual requirement that every AD in Minnesota come to an in-person meeting with league staff to go over these issues as well.
Okay.
Follow-up,
Yep.
Representative Keeler.
Thank you, Chair. That's helpful. Good to know. Weird that it doesn't go to 9th grade, though, because isn't 9th grade kind of part of high school, or why is that different for the high school league?
Mr. Arneson.
Madam Chair, that's an excellent question because the high school league's doing this right now. We're just expanding into 9th grade.
Yeah.
High school has always been 10, 11, and 12, and that we had varsity and junior varsity sports, but we didn't govern 9th grade sports. And it's a policy and economic decision to make that expansion as we expand the insurances into those grades. If a 9th grade student was playing on the junior varsity, then they fall within the jurisdiction of the league. But if it's a 9th grade versus 9th grade, they have not in the past, so we're expanding into that.
Okay.
Interesting discussion and
Yeah.
note to all committee members' minds that this is something that we should be aware of.
Yeah.
Representative Keeler?
Yep, very last question and more. I would like to follow up because I think I heard you say like you guys are looking for things to kind of add into your 3-year. Could maybe just briefly, I know you mentioned some things, but what are some of the trainings that coaches get in preventative education, like suicide prevention, heat stroke, understanding prevention? Like, what are some of those, and are there some areas that we can also add to this?
An understanding of, thank you,
Madam
Mr.
Chair,
Arneson.
and I would say, actually, we have a statutory structure already on concussion, and we have pretty aggressive rules and protocols and instruction on concussion. We have a program called Anyone Can Save a Life that has to deal with sudden cardiac death and the use of AEDs and the training on that. We get into different rules. Wrestling has rules, for example, about skin and those kind of pieces. We have a very extensive rule book in addition to the training pieces that we do. So it's a lot. I might say, and it's a good thing to share with the committee. Generally, the high school league isn't people's favorite group, but we do solve a lot of issues for you folks. We decide how long the seasons will be, and when the tournaments will be, and how many games kids can play, and how many innings they can pitch, and all of the level of discussion on this is pretty granular, and always with the idea of making this a good experience and a safe experience. You mentioned the heat exhaustion. We've got temperature rules, a very, very detailed set of rules and stuff. So we can talk about it some more. It's always a good topic, I think.
Great. Thank you. I think we'll move on then.
I just want to make sure we do follow up because I want to nerd out about it a little bit.
Sure.
You know where to find
Madam
Mr.
Chair,
Arneson.
members.
And we, Representative Berg?
No, I just have a question, I guess. I had 2 high school wrestlers, and I feel like the whole culture around wrestling is one big eating disorder. Because I would have kids at my house, and they're, wrapped up in plastic trash bags because they're sweating out that last 3 ounces to make weight. And so I'm just wondering if we are in a situation where the school itself is creating this culture, how does that impact this legislation?
Thoughts, Representative Robbins?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the question. Yes, I have heard anecdotes like that from a lot of people as I began working on this bill. And our testifier, Ms. Radzek, has, extensive examples as well. And I think that's why this is important, because we want to set a standard in the state through the high school league of what is healthy eating in all of these sports. And there are some sports maybe, where they encourage, carb loading or different things that's specific for their sport, but making sure it's based in science and based in research, and that we're encouraging athletes to understand the totality of healthy eating and healthy body weight. So to me, that's why this is important, because of examples like that, where coaches maybe that's how they were taught, or they come from different places. So it's sort of creating a standard through this coaching license that the high school league does in the ongoing training. I think it's going to be helpful for athletes in all sports.
Thank you. Thank you. Representative Bennett.
Thanks, Madam Chair. And thank you, Representative Robbins, for bringing this forward. I think it's a hugely important issue. And Rep. Keeler, you had some great questions about the league. I'd be interested in hearing those things, too. Just want to say thank you for not creating an additional mandate on our schools, finding a way to do this without doing that. Currently, our teachers and staff are really overwhelmed with all the new mandates, so we don't need any more. So thanks for that. Very quick question. Are there resources out there that the high school league can use already for best practice instruction? I'm assuming there are, but.
Representative Robbins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, so certainly the testifiers group with all is a good resource, but the high school league and I have already had conversations, and they're going to be looking at national resources as well. And they are also planning, when they attend a national conference on this issue, to bring it forward and ask for what other schools and states are doing, but also bring forward our idea here in Minnesota as a consideration for other states to take a look at. So I think they have committed to finding those best resources, and I have great faith in the high school league and that they will do that. And to your point about the mandate, I have to say that was really important to me in bringing this bill. And the great relationship we've had in these discussions with the high school league, I'm very grateful for, because they've been strong partners in this, and the opportunity to bring it for the committee to your attention, I'm very grateful for, and also to raise the issue publicly. Our students and parents and coaches all need to understand what a huge issue this is, and that it's something we can make a difference on for kids.
And may I accept those as your
Yes.
closing words for this bill, and very well said. Thank you, Representative Robbins, for presenting this bill. And with that, Representative Mueller renews her motion to lay over House File 3660 for further consideration. Thank you.